Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Gale. I'm with Roland Adult and Community Education. And this session is put together by members of our consortium who are part of the ESL work group representing most of the schools in our consortium. And this is a follow-up on what began at our previous conference. So what I'd like to do is introduce, I believe it's no, not Victoria. Who's going first?
Olga.
Olga. All right. Olga's going to give a little background, some of the rationale behind how we created this student progress report. Thank you. Had the letters mixed up earlier.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And so I know that everyone's awake now, because for the first session, I know everyone kind of was, walking a little slowly, but I know that you're awake now and you're ready to go. What I wanted to share with you was that conferences like this gives us an opportunity to meet with other teachers and to kind of reconnect with maybe friends that we don't have an opportunity to see too often. And it's always a topic of conversation of our students, what programs we're using at our district, what are we doing with assessment, what are we doing with student progress, what level do you teach, and so forth and so on. And so the last time that we were here, I started to have a conversation with a woman, and we started to share just basically what you were saying. But what I was saying was about student progress, about programs, where do you teach, and so forth and so on. And as we were talking, we realized that we knew each other from our past. And all of a sudden, we realized that we graduated from high school together. And who was to know that after all these years, and again, I don't want to say how many years because I'm embarrassed, but after all these years, we end up at this conference in the same line of work, and that's Margaret right here. Right? And so that's one of the things that I remember from last year from this conference. But the other thing that I remember is that we also shared with you the efforts that this consortium is doing. And as was presented before, this consortium has representatives from all the local districts here in our area. And one of the things that our consortium is really working on is to be able to share information and to have some common language with some of the things that we are doing. So in the past, one of the things that the consortium developed that is being used as we speak in many of our districts is the competencies, the ESL competencies that we use to guide our instruction. And as a result of using those competencies, we realized that we needed to take a step forward and to actually be able to determine how we were going to let our students know how they were doing in these competencies. And so the last time that we were here, we asked you for suggestions and recommendations as to what we could come up with that would be a common reporting method to help transition our students perhaps from one level to another, from one program to another, or from one district to another. Because as you know, many of our students have the tendency to maybe move from one area to another. And so giving us the opportunity to maybe share that information as to how they were doing. And so boy, we asked and you gave us that information. You gave us a lot of suggestions in terms of what you felt needed to be in this progress report. And there were many groups of people that came up with different charts. And so you have charts that had maybe academic areas, maybe assessment information, participation, levels of grading. And you can see there's little post-its, there's chart paper. And so we took all these suggestions that you gave us because, you are the ones that are in the classroom. You are the ones that know what you feel should be a way of showing student progress. And so you gave us that. We took everything back and we looked at every single post-it, we looked at every single chart, and we looked for common threads. What are some of the common things that teachers really feel would indicate how students are doing in the classroom? Students want to know, we know how they're doing. If a student comes up to you and asks the teacher, how am I doing? We're able to, at that moment, tell them right away how they are doing. But we realized that we needed something that was more formal, something that we could take a few minutes to complete, to be able to keep a record of it, and to be able to give to the students as well. But yet something that the students would be able to read and be able to understand. So as you can see, this was one of the formats that we looked at as well. So not only did we take your suggestions and recommendations into consideration, but we also worked with the format. We looked at different formats, once again, to make it as easy as possible for the teacher to complete, but also for the students to read. And so with all that, we came up with this. This is a student progress report that we feel would help us to share with our students how they are doing in the academic areas, in participation areas, be able to give them information on assessment, and at the same time be able to, for them to be able to use it to know what they need to do, where they are, and what they need to do to improve or to go on to the next level. Again, it's so that we all have a common language, so that we're all working towards the same competencies, and that we're all supporting our students to make progress. And so we have Victoria, no, I'm sorry, it's Gale and Grace will take you to the next section.
Good morning. So now you've heard your first one, now you're raring on the second one, right? So you're ready, you're all paying attention, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So, as you heard, this student progress report was developed to answer the age-old question from your student. How am I doing? Right? We want to know. We want verification. We want validation. How am I doing? So that's how this student progress report, we took everything that everybody has been talking about and tried to put it in as concrete examples and keeping it simple so that the student-driven tool can be used by the teacher to see and enable them to see their midterm progress, whatever it is at your particular school district. Midterm, how they're doing at that point in the various skills and competencies, along with testing. And on the website, if you remember from the last, conference, we worked on those competencies for the different levels. So they're kind of hand in hand. So it gives you the idea and the tool as to how to see where they are in these skill levels. And it culminates in an end of the term recommendation. So they can know where they are at this time and where at the end, after everything, their recommendation. And it enables the student to gain a clear picture of their level of competency. So, as you can see from when we start, and again, remember, this is a work in progress, and part of the ideas may be kind of subjective, but the skill levels are based on the competencies for the particular level you're teaching, and some of the other skill levels that are not the academic, but are more of the classroom participation, are your views as a teacher. You know your students. You know how they come to attend. Now, yes, there are other sources that you can put the actual numbers, but you know how to evaluate. Okay, so let's kind of take a look at the form itself. This, pretty simple. Okay? Name, ID, level, and if you have a multi-level class, you can kind of tweak it for the level of the particular student. If it's one level, okay, then it's the level district. Now, there's a blank, and you will hear Victoria afterwards tell how the pilot program worked at Roland. But she mentioned she put the name of the book in that. Okay? Maybe there might be some other source where you can just leave it blank. Again, this is adaptable and for your students. You can, instead of level for the CTE, ABE, you might put course. If you're doing electrician, you're doing HVAC, okay? Or if you're doing high school diploma. Again, this started with ESL, but it can be adaptable to whatever program you are teaching. Remember, it's a student tool and it's driven by you. So you help it and make it for your students. Okay, next. Okay, so academic skills. Again, CTE, ABE, adults with disabilities, don't get honed in on academic. Okay? If there are some other skills other than conversation, maybe that isn't an evaluation that's important for the student or necessarily that you have been using as an evaluation tool. You can adapt it. So, do we have any CTE teachers in here? CTE? Okay. So, if you were going to adapt it for CTE, is there something that you would take out from conversation, listening, pronunciation? Is there something that maybe is not an evaluation tool that one of your students would say, how am I doing? That they would want to know that. Is there something you would take out? And maybe replace it with something else?
Well, CTE is so broad.
Okay.
I teach Excel, but if I was teaching office technology, conversation and listening, that might be good for somebody who, for a receptionist position, I'd say.
Okay.
But just for my class, Excel, that isn't necessarily for that. So
Okay.
I could take out conversation, listening, maybe they need to listen to the,
Okay.
and the pronunciation.
Okay.
And grammar, but maybe I might want to add, ability or their
Okay.
understanding of concepts,
Okay, so it is adaptable. It's a flexible document. Okay? And that's one of the reasons for the consortium and collaboration and why we created this second conference program, is so that other programs can see how they can use this as a student-driven tool for their particular students. Anybody else? Is there any other than ESL in here that might want to adapt? Any of those academic skills? Anybody? Well, if you talk to anybody, you show them this when you go back to your school, explain it to them. Okay, if you know teachers in other programs, and you say, hey, we just got this really cool document that is going to help our students, what do you think? And how can you adapt it? Okay? That's the idea about collaboration. We're not living in just our own educational world anymore. We want our students to succeed and move on to other things. So help them out, okay? So again, it's adaptable. And then we go to the classroom participation, okay? So you see attendance. This at the top is the very specific hours that you've already been getting together. You've been compiling. You can get it from ASAP. Then, because the research has shown that many of these things have an effect on how the students are doing. So we know if somebody is attending regularly, yes, they'll be doing better. if somebody only can attend or only does attend sporadically, that affects and has a definite focus on how they are doing and succeeding. So while we don't want to hit them over the head with it, but we do need to acknowledge it and let them know that if they come more regularly, they will start doing better and understand. So you have these things, class engagement. And on the back of the form and your report, it gives you an explanation. So it gives you a place where you can see how you can evaluate. Okay, class engagement, dependability, punctuality, attendance. Again, for other programs, you can change it, you can adapt it. And maybe on the CASAS part of it, okay, maybe you give other types of exams, again, in the electrician or HVAC or things like that, where they have particular modules, and they've given those kind of tests, the EPA test or whatever. You can switch that. And you can you put a chapter review. You can add where it says other. So make it a document that works for you and your students. Okay? Because the student is always going to be asking you, how am I doing? So help them out. Yes? And this is a way. And the best part of it for me is the comments, the comments section. Okay? We all want to motivate our students. We all want to encourage them. So we tell them where they are, encourage them slightly, and say, hey, but here's where you maybe could use some extra, and then give them some tools. Give them a website. If you're talking, or give them a book. If they're talking and saying, hey, you know what? You need some punctuation work, or maybe in a CTE, maybe they need some work on some of the technical words, and they're reading. Give them somewhere to go. Give them a tool. And that can be your comment. Remember, we're not asking, this is not more work for us teachers. We don't want any work. We don't need any extra time to spend doing more paperwork. It's check, check, check. And it's just a little comment, and it can be done during your instruction time day. You can have that can be your day. You're helping the student, you're giving him out, and if the student needs more and wants a one-on-one, you can do it. Any questions? Anybody? Oh, either you didn't, oh, never mind. Okay, so here's Grace. She will go over the actual student profile filled-in one that you have.
Good morning, I'm ESL teacher at Mount San Antonio College. And this is a sample, by the way. If you're teaching ABE or some other program, as Gale talked about it, you can adopt it if you wanted to. And this is a completely sample, and then I did an ESL, so you can look at it. Before I started this, the first session, everybody had a question about how do you know who's in the good, satisfactory need, this one. And then if you need this one handout, 8086, which is all the skills are in here, this is in your program. When you look at the program, there's a QR code there. So if you scan, go to ESL, you have everything on the program. So you can print it out. I have only 4 copies here, so if anyone wants to take it, you can take it. But if you want to print it out, you can just go to QR scanner, and then you can get all the presentation, all the handouts on the website. You can print it out. So you can see the differences there. I will just show you this one here. I passed a sample a few minutes ago. First one was a blank one, second one is a sample one. And then this is the student's profile. The student name is Linda Wang, and the student ID, each school is going to be different. And then level of ESL beginning high, and then teacher's name, and then district, you're going to put your district that you're working for. And then this level can be different. You can put the CTE or ABS, whatever the class that you are teaching, you can switch, and then student's date of the birth. And then when you look at here, 2 columns, left column is the first one, first semester, and then this one is the second. The 1 semester we divide by 2. in the middle of the semester, you tell them how students are doing in the classroom. That's how you show. Like Linda does not talk a lot during the class, and then she's a Chinese student. She speaks Chinese mostly in the classroom. So the reading, grammar, and the writing is good, but she has a problem with the listening and pronunciation. So those are the areas that we need to working on. So this is a profile. And then let's look at the sample that I gave to you. Look at the first one. And then here, attendance, she attends 60%, 60 hours out of 100. It means missing 40% of the time. So in the middle, when you look at the end of term, she missed another 30 hours, so it's cumulative. So she was missing total of 70 hours. So in the end, she was low. And then when I give the command here on the bottom, instead of saying, okay, go home, listen, instead of saying that, it is better teacher, it is better to give them tool, what kind of things they should listen. So either give them website or something they can listen to the music or a song. So I type 3 websites for you to use. Actually, these are the actual website for free you can use. So I put the lyrics.com. If you go to lyrics.com, they can listen to the song in English. They have a British, they have American. Some students, they are really fall in love with a British accent instead of American accent. So they can choose. If they want British accent, they can choose British. Or they want to do American, click the American. While they are listening, they have either the easy, low student can have a 1, 2, 3, 4, they can click, whatever listen, the click. And the advanced student, while they are listening, they can type the vocabulary there. So you can go home to look at lyrics. This one helps a lot because not only learning English, also they are learning American songs, very famous song that they can listen. And then second one is www.eslab.com. Also, it will help lots of listening skill. It's from the beginning, middle, and high. So these are all free. And then also last one, www.rumchung.com. I have many Chinese students personally in my class. That's why I use this one a lot. When you go in there, also they have American, British, and then also one website they can change everything to Chinese. I don't suggest them to change to Chinese, but if the students are very, very low, they cannot follow the instruction, they can change, they can look for this one. So instead of just saying going home to listen, I give them exactly what they have to do in the classroom. So that's what I did. Thank you. Now next person is going to be Victoria. Oh, yes.
Just one question on the academic skill.
Yes.
Good, satisfactory, needs improvement.
Yes.
My question isn't so much that booklet, but let's say they are whatever level.
Yes.
Is it good for that level, or is it good?
Good for that
satisfactory,
level.
Good for that
Yes.
level.
Yeah.
So if they still need help with their pronunciation,
Yes.
but that's good for that level,
Yes.
then it's still good. for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's why we put the here level there.
Right, I
Yes.
understand that,
Yeah.
but it's like, maybe they're good for that level, but then
Yes.
they think, well, they don't need to improve, but.
Yeah. Even though they are advanced student, like let's say some school has a high advanced
Yeah.
level 10, still they need to improve.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, a low level might be very good at that level.
Yes.
But they still need to improve.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so, this is a really interesting thing that we're doing, something new for many of us. Definitely it's something new for me. I don't usually do a progress report for my students. And so I was really eager to try this. I wanted to do this. And so they asked me to pilot this in my class. And I did on the 6th week. Actually, I had to actually do this on week 5 because we have a 12-week semester, but it actually takes a good amount of time to get these, to gather the information and to fill it in. And I'm probably not as organized as I should be, so in some areas I needed to, it just took me a while. But once I got started, and when I put the information on the personal, the one about the student progress report where it has their student information, I put that on a file, and I use that as a template so that I didn't have to retype my name, level, district, and I also put the book in here side by side. So I put that on a template, and then I just, when I went to do each individual one, I actually did a lot of cutting and pasting because ASAP has a lot of information like their name, date of birth, attendance. So I was able to cut and paste from ASAP the information that I needed for each individual student. So it wasn't that much actual typing, mostly just finding the information and transferring into this form. Digital is a lot faster, I believe, but if you're not doing that, you can't, writing it out is just as good. Then yes?
Oh, no, this form then you can type online?
Yes, it's a PDF and a doc, either one.
But it's PDF so that
It's editable,
okay.
yes.
Sorry.
And I found that really helpful for me because my writing's not so good, you know? And I'm kind of messy. And the more I write, the messier it gets. So this makes it look very neat and professional. And then I went through and did the skills, which it's a bit subjective, but I used what I could observe since I didn't really start paying attention until week 5. It was a little difficult to remember, you know, but I did the best I could, and I told them I'm just doing what I can from my own observation. This is not a test or any kind of, you know, scientific thing, just what I have observed about you. I spoke to them all individually, by the way. I didn't just hand these out. And then in the participation area, as I said, the ASAP has the attendance. I took a percentage myself because we don't have 100 hours really. You know, we did. I think my morning class is 75 hours. My evening class was 45 hours. So it was not a round number that you can see clearly what percentage they attended. So I actually did convert that to a percentage. QuickGrade.com has a chart that you can make. And then and I told them, see, you've only attended 40% of the time, you know, or you've attended. I actually had a few people that had perfect attendance, 100% attendance. So that was amazing. And homework completion, I hadn't been tracking their homework, so that was difficult for me. I just had to try to remember how many papers I've seen with their name on it. And then there were areas where I wasn't sure, so I just put usually for most of them, and a couple people were rarely, and a few were always. And then on these areas here, I went by how they behave in class. Are they, you know, interested, and are they enthusiastic? Do they look stressed every time I call on them? Things like that. And I discussed it with them too, so that they wouldn't think I'm just, you know, marking these randomly. The digital literacy, I was not able to assess that because I don't do that. I haven't had an opportunity to do that, so I said not applicable on that area. That's why it's a flexible tool. You can change, you know. If it isn't something that you're doing, you don't assess it. Punctuality and attendance were more, again, about do they usually come in on time or do they rarely come in on time? You know, you get familiar with the students that just, you know, they've got things to do and they don't make it to class on time, or they miss a lot because of other obligations. And the comment section was probably the thing that took the most time. I was really concerned with saying nice things and not too hard, because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So I found a lot of resources online where people have already created lists of comments, constructive comments, and yeah, they go, you know, somebody already did this. And now I wish I had talked to Grace, and then I would have added some, you know, in actual hints or suggestions, recommendations of what they could do. And I didn't do that. I was just thinking about giving them a comment that will maybe get them thinking about how to improve, but no actual suggestion. And that was something that I missed out on. I should have done that. Next time I will. Now I know. Besides just telling them, you know, he needs to work on listening or improving pronunciation skills. Here you go. Try this website. You know. And as I said, every student. I spoke to them individually. They signed it. I signed it. I want to make sure that they understood it. Before we even passed this, before I even gave it to them, I showed them all of this in the classroom. We talked about the definitions and what it means. I wanted them to be as knowledgeable about it as possible. It's not just a piece of paper. It means something. And they really seem to appreciate it. They seem genuinely happy that somebody's paying attention to them, that they're being noticed. And I'm glad I did it, and I will keep doing it. I'm going to try to streamline my methods, and it'll be better next time. Any questions? Okay, thank you. And now it's time for Karen and Gale. Gale Lee.
Hello. So as I look around the room, I see a couple of teachers, and I have a sense that there's more than one administrator. Administrators? Oh, maybe I'm wrong. So, CTE?
There was a CT.
What? You're both. Well, the ESL teachers?
Mostly ESL.
All right. So we have ESL. Okay. Well, at this point, we're going to kind of wrap up with small group discussion. We have some questions for you about how to adapt this report into your particular program. And so before we get into small groups, you have in front of you some index cards. And we would appreciate and value your comments, questions, suggestions, ideas, anything you can think of, and we'll collect those. At the end, we'll take them back to our meeting and synthesize them and discuss them and certainly put them into this progress report, which is a work in progress, right? So if you could just get into groups of three, because it looks like we have a small group. And here are the first set of questions. And how much time do we have?
We're going to spend, we have about 15 minutes, so we're going to spend, we've got 3 different slides, 3 questions on each slide, so we're going to spend about 5 minutes on this first group of first group of questions. And then in about 5 minutes, I will be directing you to move on to the second group and then the third group. So a total of about 15 minutes total discussion time, 5 minutes for each group of 3 questions. So, no, that's not the correct time. I know. I know what time it really is. I'm looking at that. It's really 11:15. Almost 11:20.
Yes, 11:20.
So, yes.
Is there an estimated time of completion for the conference report?
You mean when we'll have it rolled out and ready to go out?
No. So you're both in ESL.
Yeah.
You don't really need to think about that.
I'm going to join you, I guess.
That was developed over 3 years.
Okay. Oh, really?
As far as I know, I don't teach
The mouth.
Well,
From an administrator's point of view, to extend into our language, kind of what we're supposed to do when we go up.
I was thinking about that. Right now you have some more
So I
able to get that
And it's spoken
information,
English, so I think that's pronunciation, then we teach them how
and also extrapolate
how
that
we
into
link
data science and that way we don't do stuff twice.
We asked the
Like
students
for
in discussion,
example, Google Forms,
what is it that
but I know Google Forms is a little more archaic and working with
next step would be?
I don't know what that would look like. But I don't so what's next?
We teach
Right, so in other words, so we compile the data and then actually
I see how we can get that data.
I don't know if there's anyone else that does that, so you don't see
While you're doing all this work, but then where the files are individual. Because that way,
use a little bit of it, but this is our whole thing.
But she's talking about, so like for us, conversations,
and it's an extra spot, and this, I know we have people coming in your door, I teach at night, and I don't have any registration. The other night, I had a call, really, I had 8 new people, and they just came from China, and they were only 3 months, and they didn't speak anything, so it was like crazy, that if they had come in with some sort of, or maybe they have nothing, then I know they're brand new, but I didn't know their level, I didn't know
Right.
deal with it, but if they can come in with that information, that would be great.
That's thought I just know my other teachers are going to take them time to fill out each of these forms from 30 to 20 to 40 students. How is there a different way to get that data out of those forms?
To extrapolate to actually make a usable form.
What format for it is for
You're right.
That's the only thought I would have to correct
Would you mind writing that down? I have so many things, because we created this as ESL teachers for ESL students, but
I know it's their form. There's some very important data. But I just don't want to lose that meaning that, okay, so we do these forms, we give a copy to the student, we keep the form, but then what do we do with it at the end? How is there an easy way to compile that so that the teachers aren't doing extra work later on?
right.
If say administrators for
Anyway, so anything, I mean,
or if you want to just send up
They're also just absolutely place where it's in a measurable form. Like teachers online listed, right? Wages of literacy.
That's something to ask, and I don't know if there's a simple answer, but that could be the next one, because I don't want someone to do all this work. And here just to say,
For us, it's hard for us to really make
so I was just curious as to
Yeah, but the thing else
you're going to have
is great, and I don't think it's
That's all.
it's very easy to adapt.
I agree, that's definitely something to think about, and you guys start the whole process.
That's what's so good about it.
Thank you so much.
I think that's important. I think want to give at least that's teacher.
So what's on this digital library? What is that? Literacy. Oh, digital I guess the library. I should put my glasses on.
And then it's not teachers who teaches.
Yeah, okay, I get it.
Like she just sent me said, I know she wants to go to zero.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Why she's in so they the reasoning. And then I have a big winter students who practice my own. It's not district. I do myself as a teacher. I want to help
See, no, but anyway, see, like down here, you don't have so like, you to buy it, we use a certain dictionary so that we all use the same. Actually, and then when they're in class, because we have all dictionary assessments, some of them are generic. So it would be nice to have something like dictionary, and then they can see. And then a comment is really, you know how much dictionary.
Okay, let's wrap up our discussion.
Right, they have to, they want to remind them that they want to use the same phonetic symbols, right? So we're teaching them certain symbols.
Let's wrap up our discussion. Let's see if there are any comments
We don't know that they're using the same phonetic symbols.
that we can make from the various groups here. All right, any groups want to briefly share your comments, your discussion that you did? I know, a bunch of teachers, everybody's shy.
I guess I could start out. The question that I posed to this group was, as in my position and obviously overseeing, making sure that students are successfully moving up and learning, and that the teachers, obviously the team, and Karen's one of our staff there within the academic team, that they're moving along is what other folks are doing across the consortium. What criteria is used to establish? Is it just solely GASA's score ranges that are the recommendation for movement of a level? Is it teachers making sure that they're identifying, although maybe Joe received a 200, but maybe they had a bad day in testing, so that doesn't necessarily move them up or recommendation to the next level, but the teacher does an assessment of the student, says, yes, Joe is ready, has met course competencies, is ready to move on to level 2. For instance, what are folks using as a criteria for assessment? Do they have their individual assessment as a district, as a unit? Is there a specific tool, or is there a variety of tools? So that's something that I posed the group.
Right, those are good questions. We did talk about that a little bit in our work group too. One of the reasons we went with such a basic one was because there is variation. And we wanted to leave room for teacher input. Like you said, maybe Donald had a bad day, he came in, he had a headache and whatever, had a bad day at work. And so his test scores were lower than what his competencies.
So one of the things we discussed in the last session was a collection of rubrics that people are already using, and that would go maybe along what kind of assessments are you using. So that would be another collection that could address the.
Are you talking about? I'm sorry. Are you talking about like a rubric for each, like for listening?
No. I'm just talking. Some people use rubrics for writing, for EL civics, those rubrics, just whatever you're using. Nothing specific. Just because we want to eventually have a rubric that defines what's good, what's satisfactory, what's for writing in all the different areas. So eventually we have consistency, or we're going to have people all over the board, and this needs to be a consistent document that goes from agency to agency along with the student.
And the goal is to possibly put those rubrics on the back side, the reverse side of this document. Other comments?
My comment is making the form teacher friendly, that a teacher, not like me, who can go in and fix the form if there's some problems, but somebody like some of you who don't have good computer skills, that you can go in there and if it's in a Word format, sometimes I don't know how this, I'd have to look at the form on the screen and I can tell automatically that this form, if you start typing it, everything moves all over the place.
Yeah.
Have you had that a problem?
That's true.
So I go and I fix it. It takes me hours, but I fix it.
That's a good
So if whoever had that idea of putting in information so you have all that typed in, you can still use it and do a check
Okay,
out
I
on
will
hands.
answer.
Okay.
Peggy. Okay. when you go to Word, it happens. But go to PDF,
But see, if you can still make it a PDF, has
it
to
doesn't
be.
change.
Okay, I understand, but you have to make it so some people can type in it.
Yes.
Okay, but you can also make it in Word so it doesn't change.
Oh,
actually
yeah,
can.
insert. There was a key insert.
Well, there's a way of creating the
Yes.
form. I'm just saying, I know how to do that. But what I'm saying is that some people, thank you so much. If you don't have the correct type of PDF, you just have a
Okay.
PDF reader,
Uh-huh.
it may not work. It may work for you because you created the form.
This is something,
Okay.
Sage,
Yeah.
someone who is
Okay,
doing
but
this
anyway,
work.
if you create it
So,
so that somebody can go in and type
Yes,
it, that's
it's
fine.
working.
Yeah.
That's fine,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, again, this is a work in progress.
Okay, no, but that's
Yeah.
perfect.
And we'll-
Along the same lines, it needs to be more user-friendly, especially in my situation, I have elderly students. And clearly, these words are way too small for the ones I work with. the students I work with.
another thing
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Clearly,
Size.
this is way too
So,
small.
so is it
Make
so
it
the
two
question is
sided?
it possible to make this 2 pages?
Make it a big
For,
Well,
make it like a little booklet?
Yeah, maybe because.
Okay.
He's right, I have students that could not use this.
Write that down because I'm going to forget when we get to our next work group meeting.
Gale, she's got it.
You got it written down good.
Another
Yeah.
possibility
I'm
is
writing
to
it
reduce
down.
the margin.
I'm writing to what you said.
Okay, you gotta increase the time face and,
Right.
you know.
And this would be very difficult to explain to my literacy students.
Yes, it would.
I can tell you, right, my literacy level I have this year, my group, they're very low literacy.
Right. It would be very difficult to explain that unless you're fluent in every language in your class.
So how, what could you recommend?
The emoji, put the happy face, that's what I use.
Okay, good idea. Happy face.
Yeah.
I think she's saying the words itself, I mean, you can put a happy face, that isn't the thing. The
It's
words
understanding.
itself, they don't understand.
So-
What that means.
Comprehension.
So maybe a form then for the real lowest level, what kind of a word would you recommend instead of, give me something that's too high level, what would you recommend? What's a high level word that's
I'm just saying that you talk about speech emergent,
okay,
they're very speech emergent.
okay.
Their reading skills
Yeah,
are.
I know her class.
Okay.
Maybe this is something for discussion, maybe this isn't even relevant for a literacy
Yes,
level.
So maybe for a literacy or basic, there needs to be a separate form that's simpler. Because you still want something for your students.
Yes.
So give me, like I said, give me an idea, just one word that's bothering you that think
Well,
is too high.
It's because their literacy words might not be the answer.
Okay.
So going along with Grace's idea, using like
A
pencil.
Okay,
Yeah,
an
so
image.
instead of conversation showing two
A
heads.
mouse.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would have.
Okay. So maybe, so for a literacy level, instead of words, you still have the concept of conversation, but instead of you use the word conversation. So we could still create it with the same skills, but instead of the word, use something else to still demonstrate.
Karen?
I think a checklist would be really good. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, shapes, numbers, months, weeks, all the literacy stuff.
going back to the
Checklist, check it off
Maybe
once
just
they
a
get
check,
done. Just a
Okay.
checklist.
All right. We will definitely bring these comments into our
Okay.
next work group meeting and
So maybe.
We'll have them